Okay, so question 11. According to the passage, Alzheimer's disease, and the answer is B, was unknown before 1906. Let's eliminate A as the answer. According to the passage, Alzheimer's disease is most likely to strike during old age. Although this is common knowledge, that you don't have to be a medical expert to know that Alzheimer's disease is most likely to strike during old age. However, this is a reading exam, so we have to go with what's in the reading. In this reading, there nowhere in this reading uh, tells us, or nor does it imply that Alzheimer's disease strikes during old age. Although it is common knowledge, it's not in this reading. Some may mistake A to be the answer because there is a part of the reading, maybe more than one part, two parts of the reading. I'll show you one part where the author tells us that symptoms or signs of Alzheimer's are most likely detected in a later stage, later on. If you understand the reading, even though these symptoms are more easily detected later on in the later stage, you cannot be sure that they're symptoms of Alzheimer's because some of the other diseases have the same symptoms. So it's not until the person dies and there's an autopsy examination, that's the only time when you could definitely, or when the examiner can definitely determine, okay, yes, this person has Alzheimer's disease. So most of this article is about diagnosis, detection, not about when the person is most likely, when in a lifetime of a person would he or she most likely have this disease. So A is definitely wrong because it's not in the reading. This is a reading test. This is not a test of common knowledge. Although yes, common knowledge tells us that Alzheimer's is most likely to strike during old age, but it's not in the reading. B is the answer, and I'll show you why. It's found in paragraph 1, line 3. And let's go there. Paragraph 1, line 3. Or actually, line 2. Microscopic brain tissues changes have been described in Alzheimer's disease since Alzheimer first reported them in 1906. So, this is when Alzheimer's disease was first discovered and reported and named, and was named after the researcher who found or who discovered this disease. So in 1906, which means that before 1906, this disease was not known, and therefore the answer is B. According to the passage right there in the first paragraph, Alzheimer's disease was not known before 1906. Even though B seems to be the answer at this point, you should always rule out the other answers to make sure there is not a better answer. So C tells us Alzheimer's disease is hereditary. In this passage, the author does not tell us that Alzheimer's disease is hereditary. However, if you've read about Alzheimer's outside of this passage, you probably know that Alzheimer's disease is most likely hereditary. And even in this passage, when the author talks about Alzheimer's disease associated protein, or as a possible genetic marker. So if there's a genetic marker for a disease, and if you have a background in health science or in medicine, or you will know that that would mean that scientists are thinking that this disease is most likely hereditary. Otherwise, they won't be looking for a genetic marker, although they're still not certain yet about this, but it's most likely. So if you have knowledge outside of the reading, you will know this, but that would actually, in a reading test like this, that would actually cost you, because then you may actually you might choose C as the answer, but it's wrong. And this is where it's important to note that the creator of the question is most likely not a scientist, or the creator of the question is most likely an English professor. So most likely they will not choose C, and they will not pick up on, they will not have as much outside knowledge of this disease. So most likely they will not pick C. And this passage does not directly and does not talk about whether the disease is hereditary. This passage as a whole is mostly about diagnosing or detecting Alzheimer's disease. Choice D, Alzheimer's disease is more common in women than in men, and this one is obviously not true. And if you're not certain, I encourage you to review the whole passage again, and it will be much easier to do if you've annotated. Looking through the whole passage, and you'll find nowhere does this passage tell us that Alzheimer's disease is more common in women than in men. Nowhere in the passage.